was a dream of what could be, a church for every tribe and nation, fashioned in unity, built on the cornerstone of Christ. This precious mystery was hid from every generations, revealed for all to see.
We are at the European Pastors' Council in Belgrade, Serbia, and here with me are Tihomir and Kärt Lazic and Tihomir Lazic. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're not only leading the worship throughout the week, you are actually authors of the theme song at this council. How do you write a theme song? What do you take into consideration? How do you make it universal for hundreds of people?
Well, before you even start, I guess you need to have something to say. So you need to know your context that you're writing for, your church, and what would be useful, helpful, edifying for those people. And then you want that song to be singable and meaningful across generations and cultures, so that it can be played and sung in churches where there's just one person who plays the organ, or a church that has a contemporary band, or what have you, and make it singable for everyone. So if you combine that then with good theology and a gospel drive to the song, then I think that's a good start.
We just to add one element, how we did this particular song as a collaboration is we sat one evening and then we had the speeches from different speakers during the night, and we were thinking what are the common threads and patterns, and they were all talking about the church of their dreams, biblical church, expectant church, church that serves others, that cares for others, and so on. So we knew, this is the main thing we want to talk about, the church that we need to be in 21st century. And then how do we do this to be biblical, and then we thought about certain texts, and Ephesians came out to be the prominent one. You think about the first verse, it talks about the mystery hidden from the very beginning, which was then revealed in New Testament through the church, and even earlier through the Israelites and so on. So this mystery then reveals God's manifold wisdom, what He attempts to do with humanity, to unite us together and to unite us with Himself. So this is how we grounded biblically the song. But then every verse adds another element. Let's say there is an element about building the kingdom today, not only looking towards the future, because often in our outlook we are too future oriented and forgetting our responsibilities today towards the earth, towards other fellow believers, towards different social, political even issues, and things that people are actually concerned with around us. So we wanted to have a song which is deeply embedded in our current experience as a church. Not songs for 19th century Adventism, but songs for 21st century Adventism. So we sat together, we put the ideas together, what do we want each verse to say, without necessarily thinking about the form. We start with the content and then work our way through the form. Now in terms of how it comes, it's always different. Maybe you can comment on that. Or,
It's we've been trying to figure out if we could give a model of how to write it, and the answer is based on our experience, no, because each case is different. Also, each audience is different, and also the process of writing is different. So this time we started from the content, and then the melody came as an addition to that, or as a layer on top of that. There have been times before when we've collaborated when the melody is there, and then we sit down and we go, what do we want to say on top of that melody? And there are times when it just is given to you as a present that is almost ready, almost final, and you feel like this is completely spirit inspired, and a present to you, literally. Like you just unwrap it and it's there. And then there are times when you have to sit down and you have to really think about it hard, and you have to sweat a little and you have to polish it, and only at the end do you realize that throughout the process of that work and that job. And this is also why it's really good to work together, because we can rub against each other and the rough edges come off. That you realize by the end of that process that God has been leading through that process, even though maybe at times it's been like, how should we do it? Yeah, so there is no model. I don't think there could ever be a model. It's just how it happens.
I think some people say, oh, you should definitely write the lyrics first, or you should definitely write the melody first. I think if you look at actually other collaborations of songwriters within Christianity, there's plenty of models of it happening both ways. I do think there's something that's inherently valuable about, for example, a melody that can in itself provide a journey, a vehicle for the message, can actually help guide people towards something, and on that base you can build something. I think a lot of people think, oh, the tune is just the tune, but actually the tune can be hugely helpful in helping people to participate and take the songs into their heart.
And what is the feedback that you receive? Because during worship we use lots of songs of different origin, and this is like our song. Do you feel that it's more relevant for people, or?
For this particular song, the feedback we are getting is that this song is haunting them during the night. So we feel sorry for those people. So they wake up with this song, they go to sleep. Somehow, even from the first evening, we felt that it was immediately embraced. Sometimes it takes time for people to warm up to the song and to really understand. But this one, we really had the experience of somehow church intuitively recognizes that the message is within us already as a church, and this is what we would naturally say, and there is something now expressing that topic.
Yeah, I think the reaction has somehow been shaped by the fact that this is quite hymn-like, actually, and we deliberately, for this context, thought that's helpful. And I think for songs, if you're going to write songs that have rich theology and gospel drive that's relevant for the church, then it's important you put it in a vehicle which is universally accepted. And I think we found with this one that's I think helped people from an early stage compared to perhaps some of the other contexts which we have written for. So I think in this case that's been quite helpful.
You've been worshipping at events like this for the past several years. What do you find most challenging about worshipping with such a diverse congregation?
I would say that the greatest challenge is also the greatest blessing, and that is people. It's the fact that maybe even more than anything else that we do congregationally, worship goes very deep. And it is very personal because it has the tools to touch us to the core. We can weep a little to the sermons, but it is more likely that we would weep to a song which combines the lyrics and the rhythm and the melody and the joy and the experience of doing it together. And the reason that it's personal is making it also very complicated, because people take it personally, and people come with different experiences from the past, and with different preferences, different tastes, different traditions, different cultural backgrounds, and then putting it all together into something that feeds everyone without hurting anyone. That is the challenge, and we've spent countless hours trying to make these things work, and sometimes it comes across better, sometimes we need to do extra explanation work to make sure that people understand that this is what we are doing. And frankly, I have to say that I think that this is the category in our church that is truly lacking. It is this kind of preparation, theological, spiritual preparation for worship, that people we often come as if this was a personal thing, and it is, but it is also a communal thing. And communal responsibility sometimes may mean that my personal preferences need to take a step back, because I am here not just for me, but I'm also here for this person and this person. And Lord knows we three even have different preferences when it comes to music. And I have learned from the process of collaboration that one of the greatest joys is the part when we go, yes, we all go, that's it. But one of the greatest blessings has been when we go, and we need to test ourselves, and we need to work with each other's differences. And that is the part that actually shapes us the most. And that is, crazily enough, at least equally inspiring to the moments of joy and unity, that I see that we can work together despite the differences, and we can bring something to the table that sometimes I give and sometimes I take, and everyone else is doing the same. And that's the ultimate point of what we're supposed to be together as a church. We're not supposed to just come together in uniform unity. We're supposed to challenge each other to grow and to understand that God is greater than me. That God can be the shape of this dude or any other. And I think that is the greatest blessing and the greatest challenge in communal worship.
It's just really great that people can, realize that not everything can be their cup of tea. Not everything suits their particular needs, but there is space for others, and that they recognize that their style is not the ultimate style that applies to everybody. Let's say there was a feedback that some pastors coming from a local church, which are smaller churches, they're not used to the more sophisticated music sound, and like when we have multiple instruments and a lot of songs and complexity. Not to say that they are not sensitive to art, but simply their sentiment is not built, their preferences are not built in this context. So what we did is we went against our preparation and our personal preferences, because I think we all like complex music, and we strip it down. Piano and singers, few singers. And on Wednesday we did that intentionally, because we realized, people are listening some items as a performance rather than participating. And our principle is inclusivity, but also total participation. If we don't facilitate the worship, that people can worship there, that means something is wrong. So what we did is immediately put a break on, and then we readjusted, and suddenly they were all present. And then we can vary different styles afterwards.
We start planning from that. We want to make sure, in a diverse community you have two options. You have the option of finding the common ground and then sticking to that. But the threat of that is that you end up with such a narrow little tiny tunnel that ultimately it doesn't feed anyone, because there is no diversity, there is no inclusivity. It is just the safe, thin tightrope that you're walking. The alternative is that you plan from the beginning to the end, that there are different portions for everyone at different times, that there are hymns, that there are contemporary songs, that there are songs that are very heavy in theology, that there are songs that are more catering to the need of just crying out to God from your soul, and bringing your own content to it. So all of these things, sometimes it's harder to do that within one service, to do a series of worship services. It's easier, but then you have to do a lot of explaining work from the beginning, telling people, wait, that is not it yet. We will be serving your meal on Thursday evening, or your meal will come on Sabbath evening, So,
but it's a great opportunity, I think, for the people who find themselves not quite liking what they want, to understand that worship doesn't just go vertically, it very much goes horizontally between us. We sing to each other when we're singing in church, as well as singing to God. And when we sing and we make melody in our hearts, even though that musical style or that particular song choice or whatever is not quite our cup of tea, actually we are definitely edifying our brother or sister in Christ over there, who's really benefiting from that song.
I found one element which really works across different generations and cultures. We took the familiar hymn, let's say. 85% is actually what we did for this particular event, hymns. But then we rewrite the lyrics to fit our context and our needs in 21st century. And suddenly, when you hear the old song with a new written bridge or new elements and intentionality in the text, you feel touched that somehow we are not only trying to be new and impress with novelty, that there are certain old values which are worth maintaining.
Yeah.
So I like this analogy, which kind of sums up what I'm trying to do in music ministry, which is every change is like a microorganism. A positive change is like a microorganism, which quickly adapts to the ever-changing environment around, yet maintains the continuity with previous forms. So you can't just go completely new or completely old. You need to strike this balance between new and familiar and something which is going outside the comfort zone. Because if you don't have outside comfort zone element, novelty, there is no true growth.
I mean,
That's exactly what I wanted to say, that it is about the content that has to do that, but also there's a balance between reaffirming and challenging,
Yes.
between providing the comfort zone and then education. And I think it's a very fine line to walk, but we're trying. If you don't try, then there's no hope.
As you say, this is very much a learning experience all the time, and there is a continual change. So how do you see worship in church in like 2 years from now, 5 years from now? What's your dream?
I think we often want to create clones of ourselves, not companions around us. So we want people to fit our mold. But the biggest dream for me is this change of attitude. We don't need to be the same. God did not create all the flowers same color. There's such a diverse flowers, providing space for this diversity. Also the range of human experience, not only talking and singing about reverence and glory, but also pain and depth of this pain and ugliness of sin, and as well as struggles and doubts, and their human experience is such a wide thing, and we need to find the ways, space to accommodate different tastes, yes, but also different elements of human experience.
Yeah.
I operate within one definition of worship. That is, worship is a whole life response to God. Whole life means including everything that you are. If people came there to give everything they are in front of God, together for the worship, not only to receive, not only to be passive there and to be entertained by others and comment on other people, but they really came to respond to God, to His prior initiative in their life. That's my dream. Change of attitude, and then you respond with everything that you are. You respond to everything that God is.
And you can do that then through a variety of different forms. Once you've kind of understood that central element, I would love to be part of a church that stops fighting about what is the right way to do worship, and a church that's open to having worship done as is appropriate for the culture and the context of that particular congregation, to enable those people to best respond to God with their whole heart, mind and soul. And that's going to be different in different churches. So when we get to the point where I think we've understood what it is we're doing, we can then be much more comfortable with how it is that we do it, because we know that we're doing that simply to facilitate that particular group's seeing to and encountering with God.